Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Good morning, Abby.
Oh, hey there, Mr. Man.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, do you like my white shirt?
Oh my gosh, you look so friggin' hot in this shirt.
You didn't like my white shirt when I first got it. She was at the store with me, and I was like, how do you like this? She's like, I don't know. And then everything that I tried on, I was like, what about this? I don't know. What about this? I don't know.
I wish I could see your face. It's so funny. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And I was like, you are no help to me. And she's like, no, it looks too tight on you. You look too fat in that.
No, I did not.
You just fat shame me right in the middle, in front of everybody. I mean, that was the subcontext of that's too tight on you. You look fat.
No.
That's so how people hear
It's
stuff.
like how women hear things.
That's
It's
exactly
so
how women hear things.
true.
I didn't actually hear that I look too fat in this.
No.
I heard that you were indecisive and no help to me whatsoever.
I was, and I ended up realizing, like, after like the fourth shirt you tried on, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe it's like I'm not good at things today. Not that these clothes are.
It's funny because sometimes she has love goggles for me, and that's what happens inside a marriage sometimes is where you get love goggles, and you're like, you look amazing. And then you see a picture of yourself on that day that someone said you looked amazing. And you're like, were you deliberately lying to me or was it the love goggles? Because clearly I was a train wreck.
That is hysterical.
I want to be able to love somebody.
But I did not have love goggles on that day.
I want to be able to love somebody but still hold strong judgment towards them. For their sake. I love you so much, I'll judge you a little. Don't wear that. I actually think
we should actually do a podcast on that subject of like how, like, what you shouldn't care about and what you should care about the appearance of your partner.
there'll be things where you're just like, oh, I don't really care. You're fine just as you are. But I'm like got food in my teeth or I've got like an extra hair that's really long growing out of the side of my face. And you're like, oh, I don't know. I noticed it, but didn't do anything.
No.
But it's fine.
No.
The reason you get a partner is so that they can pick you apart and make you better. That's what I think. Somebody pick me apart.
I need a critique every day. How am I going to live my best life without
because
criticism?
after you get married, you already start giving up anyways because you already landed your catch. So you need somebody to keep you from giving up.
No.
Like
Wait, are you saying that I gave up after our marriage? Is that what you're saying? You're saying that once we got married, I went downhill? Is that what you're communicating?
There was no
here in front of all the people? Is this how you're bringing this up?
Hey, there was no downhill for you to go. You were at rock bottom when I married you, okay? So it was all uphill. Job well done. Now you ebb and flow.
Uphill.
You kind of hit a peak there, and then you kind of ebb and flow now. Anyways, besides
When did I
judging,
hit the
stop
peak?
judging me. That's the only thing she'll hear out of this whole podcast. When did I peak? Wait, did he really mean that? No.
I'm laughing so hard I'm crying.
You were beautiful from the beginning, and you will be beautiful till the end. My love goggles will say that even when you're 80.
Yeah. But
I feel like men lose their luster at about 70.
I don't know. It depends on the man.
60 to 70.
Depends on the man.
Our
and
peak
how
is 50.
often in the sun he was.
Yeah.
Because that's what affects your aging.
Oh,
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Don't be in the sun because you tell me all the time, get outside. You're going to get skin cancer. Get outside. Here, put some lotion on. I look white as a ghost, not because I'm a white guy, because I'm smothered in all of this lotion. It's like sunscreen.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
What are we talking about today, you
I
clown?
can't handle it. This is the
Ugh.
best.
If I would have known this was what marriage was going to be like when I started dating, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have dated.
You wouldn't have dated. Dating leads to marriage. Ew, get it away. No.
It's being smothered in in a bunch of sunscreen.
Oh my gosh, this intro has made me delightfully happy.
I feel sometimes like a child who's being like having a diaper put on him by you. Here, wear your diaper. You're getting poop everywhere.
What?
No, you're always managing me. I'm tired of it.
What?
No, I'm totally kidding. The people are terrified. This is where this is going. I got it right here. Here it is. You're like, this was going downhill. A lot of people have ideas of what dating is leading to, whether it's going to be a good marriage, a bad marriage, or whether it's going to lead to marriage or not marriage at all. And we're going to talk about dating today.
Dun, dun, dun.
And 6 successful keys to actually dating well without a bunch of crazy high stakes and all kinds of stuff like that.
Do you know why we're talking about dating? Because so many people are like, please talk about dating.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yeah,
we have a good
yeah,
single.
yeah.
Thank you to all the singles who listen to this. I actually
All my
even
single ladies. All my single ladies.
No, you cannot sing that in this episode.
Bop, bop, bop.
That sounds so pervy. You're married. You're not talking to all the single ladies. I'm talking to the single ladies. Okay.
All my single fellas out there. What?
Here's the thing. All of the podcast is really meant for single people. The ones we do about sex, the ones we do about marriage, because I think I needed to hear that and see good examples of that when I was single.
Yeah.
Probably more so than I did in marriage. Like I needed to see what was available and to learn and grow on the way. So all of it is built for singles. But we have a couple episodes specifically for you guys coming up. So we thought we'd start with dating. Because we've seen kind of like the same. This is what happens when you meet with thousands of people. You start to see patterns like, oh, these are things that people stumble over all
For reals.
the time. So we thought we'd talk about a couple of those things.
So these 6 keys hopefully are going to help balance you out in the dating process.
Yeah.
Swipe left
Don't be
or
an
right.
idiot. Follow 6 keys.
6
keys to non-idiocy.
Now, as a side note, in the dating process, I didn't have the
follow
swipe.
6 keys?
I didn't have to swipe. It was much different. It wasn't like online shopping.
Old man. You are an old
Which
man.
they have it lucky. They're like, nope, blonde. Nah, I don't know. We'll try a redhead. Like, that's just like so weird to me. But
kind of also hard because think about all of the people
which we might be having someone on here who's done the online dating process.
Oh, we're doing an online dating thing because it's relevant in our culture, and there's ways to do online dating really well. And I think people, because they don't know how to do it well, are either scared and don't do it at all, or like they're like toddlers driving.
You'll know if you're doing online dating well if you're having a lot of sex. Guys are like, wait, is he being for real right now?
This
is awesome advice.
No.
That's called sarcasm.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Dating number 1. Well, we're going to actually talk really quickly. Like when we talk about the 6 keys, we're talking about the don'ts to get to the do's.
Okay, the do's and the don'ts.
Okay, the first one is identity. Here's a don't. In dating. Don't try to find your identity out of the dating process. Now, what does that mean, Abby?
I know, that sounds like so like...
I don't know if that's
what does that mean?
a correct example of what I just did. but go.
So here's what I found. And we talked about this when we talked about our story. I see that most people think dating is kind of like a scale, like it's a mirror. How awesome am I?
Mm-hmm.
Can I get you is how lovable am I? How cool am I? How funny am I? How beautiful am I?
Can I land that girl? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at you to tell me if I'm good.
Yep.
If I'm worthy, if I'm lovable. And I mean, that's dangerous because here's the deal. You're going to not be who you really are.
Yep.
You're going to play the games to try to hook someone.
Mm-hmm. Becomes a game. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. You're going to like manipulate or control or do all of those things.
Your authentic self doesn't show up in a situation like that because it's all about trying to gain something or take something from another person, win a situation.
Yeah. And so we always say dating is about compatibility, not about identity.
Yeah.
So do we fit together? It's not, are you too broken for me? Or are you too healthy for me? Are you too pretty for me? Are you too ugly for me? Like, people make up
Are you
so
my
much
trophy?
shame around the idea of dating, and if someone breaks up with them, they're like,
What does this mean about me?
It means I'm unlovable. It means I'm unworthy.
And that's where dating gets really scary. Even the breakup process for a lot of people, it becomes high anxiety on both sides. If the person wants to break up with another person, they're scared to break up because they're like, this person's going to have a complete meltdown and key my vehicle to pieces because I told them I didn't want to be with them, and they can't handle the idea of being rejected because they need me to choose them in order to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason that, like, what happens here, depending on how you start the dating process off, will probably dictate how you act out in marriage long term if it goes the distance. Because if I come into that relationship being like, I need to win this person in order to feel lovable, I need their affirmation, and you hook that person, now you need to keep them on the hook. And I'm not just talking about keep them on the hook as far as like make them stay married to you, but keep them in a place where they love you, they're enamored with you, they're all about you. And let's be honest, probably a week into marriage, I was over you.
So bad.
That's not true.
If you're just tuning in for the first time, we're real sarcastic, but we only say things that there's no truth in. We don't use passive-aggressive humor. So
if I really meant it, I'd be like, I was really over her in the first week. I am not joking. I wasn't.
No.
I wasn't.
But very soon you realize there's no way. Very soon you realize there's no way to keep another person happy all the time just because we both have so many triggers.
Yep.
So if we are the best spouse ever and we're the most beautiful and we're all perfect in every way, I still can't keep you happy because you have triggers that have nothing to do with me.
No, I don't. My sadness and anger is because of you.
Totally. Here's what people think. They're like, it's all compatible. It's all about if I'm good enough for you. You don't take into account this other person is coming with an entire history of triggers. Not only that, like, okay, so I tell people.
History of pain, loss, suffering.
Hey, I'm talking.
No, wait, I'm doing the you thing.
Where you're active listening?
Yeah, I'm active listening. You told me this is how you feel loved. Make up your mind. This is the problem with women.
Yeah, Justin. Okay, so I don't know what I was saying. Okay, so chemistry often, this is like, here's a freebie because this isn't even one of our points, but chemistry often isn't like, oh, there's something about that person that's so special. It's often there's something about that person that matches my dysfunctions.
That's real.
Like we subconsciously find people.
I feel so at home inside of this chaos.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I felt so much chemistry with any guy who was emotionally slightly unavailable.
Which she believed I was slightly unavailable.
Absolutely. That's the only reason I married you.
I wasn't unavailable though.
No. Well, you were a little bit, but now you're fully available.
Well, I just didn't want you right off the bat.
That's not even true. Okay, but the concept is chemistry. So much of chemistry is based on, so like, let's say you're used to a man that doesn't pay attention to your needs.
Yeah.
Then you're going to feel great chemistry off the bat with somebody who fits that
This is
role.
so hot. I just want to eat his face off because he so doesn't pay attention to me.
But you don't even notice that. When you meet them, you can't tell that. But the vibe, the energy somebody releases that you feel magnetized to is often the dysfunctions that you have. So you got to remember, people are bringing their whole trigger, their whole belief system into it. So if somebody doesn't like you, it may mean that either like your triggers don't fit with each other, your dysfunctions don't fit with each other, or maybe you're healthy in an area, he needs a dysfunction, or you're healthy in an area, she needs a dysfunction. Or maybe like you guys actually trigger each other in the wrong ways. There's so many things that can be without it being your bad.
Yep. And so
it's more like I think about like magnets. So magnets either get sucked together or they repel. And I think sometimes in dating, you're trying to figure out, are we going to be the kind that get sucked together, or are we going to end up repelling? Repelling doesn't mean that the other magnet is an idiot.
Yeah.
Repelling just means, our two magnets don't create a force field together.
And what we find out in all relationships is that in the potential for rejection or pain, there is this need to vilify.
Yeah.
Right. And we're trying to make villains out of people. So sometimes in those relationships, someone could even make it about like, you're not enough, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's like they're probably looking to have a villain in order to get out of this or to justify their decision making or all kinds of different things. And so you could just decide like, I'm not the villain, they're not the villain. I'm not going to make a villain here. I'm not going to make this about an issue of value.
Yeah.
Ultimately at the core of it, and these are things that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
But this is about when we approach dating, am I loving myself well from beginning to end of that process?
Yes.
Am I the one who's dictating my value, whether it's in this dating relationship or it's just friendships or it's all kinds of other relationships? But when you have a strong sense of self-identity, walking into dating, the anxiety drops out of the bottom of the barrel and you're like, I don't know, I'm just on a fun journey, getting to know somebody, and we'll see what happens. And we just might not be compatible. But if we are, cool, we're going to make babies later on.
Much later on. So I have a friend who has done both sides of this, where she dated somebody a little bit ago, and it was so high stakes to her because it was, are men in general attracted to me? That was the subconscious belief she was working through while dating this guy. So if he liked her, it meant she was attractive to all men.
To all
like
of mankind.
To all of mankind. Like it not really to all men, but like to masculinity in general.
Mm-hmm. What does this say about me and my relationship with masculinity?
What does it say about me as a woman?
Yeah.
So it was super high stakes. She was stressed the entire time. Every date there was like so much going on.
Probably
in her
not
head.
being herself.
No, totally, because it was like, I need for him to approve of me, for me to believe that I'm okay.
Yeah.
And when she got done with that relationship, she went on the journey of like, okay, that's not going to work. And so I've got to take that out. And the next guy then she dated, it was not, hey, do I have value? It was, I'm trying to see if we are a good fit for each other.
Mm-hmm. If we'll make a perfect dysfunctional mess.
Yeah, exactly. and like there's things that you should think are not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And there's things where I wasn't compatible with people. And I used to have this belief. I call it the bachelor syndrome. Because I used to think, if I went on The Bachelor, I could win any guy. Hands down. And the idea was I can become whatever any guy wants.
Yeah.
I should be able, and I believed I should be able to get any guy to like me. That means that I'm valuable.
Yeah.
That I should be able to win anyone. And I could. For years, I couldn't get
You couldn't
any
just
guy.
win me, could you?
No, you made me work for it.
I did. I was kind of repulsed at the idea that you could just be whatever you wanted for someone else. I was like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Have your own opinion.
And that's the truth. Like, that's codependency. And I try to tell people, I don't think they recognize, like, I shouldn't be able to make every man like me. You shouldn't be able to get every woman to like you.
Well, I can though.
But here's the thing is, like, if that is true, that means you have no personality.
That's real.
It means you actually don't know yourself, and you have no standards, and you have no core values.
Yep. You're a chameleon.
There should be things that people don't get about me who aren't like me.
Yeah. And
That's
that should be endearing.
good.
That should be beautiful. That's what I value inside of the relationship. Not that you can morph into something that wins me over.
Yeah.
But the uniqueness of who you are is like this treasure to be discovered. And that's actually engaging. It's engaging. I'll say this for men. It's engaging for men to be able to discover the uniqueness of a woman. To be like, there's a mystery about her and I don't understand everything about her and I want to understand. And she's not just on my timetable being what I want her to be.
Absolutely.
Feels like an invitation for pursuit.
Just so we're clear, though, I did play the game well, so I wasn't just like, here, I'll do whatever you want. Like, I had some hard to get in there, too. I knew the game.
Yeah.
I knew the game.
Yeah. So did I. That's how I landed you. I knew you had daddy issues, so I was just elusive enough that you wanted me.
So, point number 1 is dating is not about compatibility and worth. You need to have an identity in it. You need to be able to like yourself and walk away and know, like, things should not work out sometimes. I should date guys and it shouldn't work because I shouldn't be compatible.
Date women and it shouldn't work. Our male audience needs to hear that.
I know. Yeah. Because rejection is not about you. It doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I want to talk about the idea of having a wrong goal. And I find that I'm going to make a generalization.
What? I don't believe in
Here
those.
comes my generalization. So I'm going to generalize women. I feel like this is a woman's thing on one side of this. So
no, it's not. I already know where you're going. It is not. I've worked with as many men on this issue as women.
I disagree.
100%.
A lot. No. And this is where
1,000%.
Here's
1,000,000%.
The wrong goal. People walk into dating relationships with two extremisms that I feel like happen. And a generalized wrong goal that I feel like I see pop up in women more often than men is that they're already in the first 2 seconds wondering if they can marry that person.
That's not true anymore. That was maybe like years ago. It's just not true anymore. I work with as many women and men and I don't find that
It's
true.
just called a disagreement inside of a relationship, people.
This is what you said.
This
You
is
didn't
what you
want
have
me
to
just
look
make you
forward
happy.
to.
That's what you just told me. I want a partner who's different than me.
Well, in my mind that's trapped in the 1980s, I feel like
there
I
you
see women more often than not maybe want to see that happen. But I guess like the institution of marriage is like pointless to most people now, and
It
they've just
has
given up on it.
changed dramatically. So get with the times.
Yeah, get with the times.
So
but
here's
it's
what
really
we're
about the end goal for a lot of people on one end is, hey, I'm looking to see if this is going to go the distance, some sort of long-term commitment in the first 2 seconds.
Yeah. And anytime that's high stakes to figure out if you can marry somebody right away.
Oh yeah. How do we fit? Does our banter work together? Do we have chemistry? And that's why people are like, hurry quickly. We just had our first coffee. Let's go home and have some sex really quick and see if we're good at that. See if we're physically compatible.
See if we're good at that. Yeah. Well, there's just a lot of, I see the two extremes, and this is what we're talking about, the wrong goal. The two extremes are there's no point in dating. It's just to screw around and have fun, and it's meaningless. And then there's the other extreme of like the whole point is figuring out if I can marry you. And it's so serious and so intense. And both extremes actually are the wrong goal. Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking, I think I maybe do concede to the idea that that's a wrong generalization at this point, but I don't know.
You do?
I don't like to admit that I'm wrong, so we'll talk about it off the podcast. I don't know. I still feel like that's the right generalization, though.
No, wait. No, you can't bring it back up and be like, it's wrong. Nope, I'm still holding to my point. I just want to reiterate it.
What it does is it puts so much pressure on a relationship right off the bat because, again, it steals from your ability to be present and just be yourself. You get lost in your head and you start picking someone apart. Oh, yeah. You start assessing everything that they're doing and what did that mean? And is that even something
Can I live with that forever? And you're like, I don't even, like, here's a great example. I tell people, you don't even know people yet. So if somebody's like, I tell them you should watch how the other person spends money. Because if you end up with them, you're going to be tying your money to them. Mm-hmm. Well, 1 week of watching you spend your money does not give me conclusive ideas about how you spend your money.
No, not at all.
You could have saved for 10 years to buy something and in that 1 week bought the expensive thing. And I could be like, he doesn't care about savings. Like, you just don't know yet.
Or you get somebody in their highest points of anxiety where they are in their biggest insecurity of being met for the first time in the first week or two. And the worst parts of them are coming out in those points because they aren't settled in. They don't feel safe. They don't know, am I okay to be these things here? Whatever it is. And so I think that there's something, and I get it. Like dating is so swipe left, swipe right, so fast type idea.
Totally.
That people are trying to make very quick decisions.
Like assessments right away. Uh-huh. And I have a friend, and
Am I wasting my time? And now everyone's getting married or getting into serious relationships at about 36 when there's no time left for them to make a baby. And they're like, I have to make a decision now.
Right now. Well, I have a friend who basically does a couple dates with people. Now, there's some people, like, even if this isn't them being nervous, I will never connect to them.
Right. There's just no.
But she has like kind of a neutral land where like it's not bad. I don't feel a lot of connection, but it's not bad. I'm going to go on a couple more dates with you to actually see if you're just not being like, maybe you're being nervous. Right. Maybe you're not being you yet.
And she's not even concluding this is someone I can or can't marry. This is like right now, I just don't enjoy this person.
Right.
I don't feel the desire to continue connection at this point with this person in the way we're having an interaction. She's not walking even all the way down the aisle in that. It's low stakes.
Yeah.
And it's just being present with where she's at. And do I want to or do I not?
Now, the other side of the wrong goal is having no goals in dating. So like, I'm just dating just to get my needs met, just to feel good about myself, just to have someone in my life. And there isn't actually long-term vision for a future.
Yeah, like, why am I dating? Well, long-term, I would like a deeper connection where there's a long-term commitment where we feel safe and so on and so forth. And
well, so like, I would say it's really valuable to have like, I want a healthy marriage. So dating is a key to get me on that journey. So not like I have to know if this guy is going to be, or this girl is going to be the one yet, but more like, okay, I want a healthy marriage. So I want to learn how to do communication well.
I'm going to learn what
I'm practicing communication with this person.
Yep.
I'm practicing being honest. I'm practicing confronting. Oh, I want a healthy relationship in the future. So I'm going to practice being myself with this person.
I'm learning about what I like and what I don't like relationally, connection wise. Like, is this a personality type that I do enjoy? Do I not enjoy it? I don't know. I've never thought about it until I've actually put myself in a dating process to ask those questions.
So without a long-term vision, dating actually can become useless and can just create heartaches and triggers.
Needless heartaches.
Yeah, because you can if you're just dating to date, you're going to have lots of heartbreaks and you're going to have lots of pain and lots of confusion. And if it's not unto something better, it's going to create more obstacles.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, so for dating, like I have multiple friends and I encourage them, like, go on the journey of dating to learn about yourself. Go on the journey of dating to learn how to love another person well. Go on the journey of dating to learn to communicate with men. Go on the journey of dating to learn how
to ask questions, how to be present.
Yes.
Yeah, how to be your authentic self. That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, like so the goal in dating is to be becoming more of who you are made to be and to be learning. So every guy I was better at communicating with than the guy before. And I did have a core value that led me through dating, and this would be a much better goal, I think, than should I marry them, should I not? My core value was, how do I love them well and how do I love myself well in this process?
And I think that that's something for even me relationally with you. That was a question that, and we talked about this in a previous episode. My number one goal was, how do I love this person well? Irregardless of whether or not we get married or we date, like, can I actually, and love meaning not just like, it was like, how do I care for this person? Yeah. How do I create a relationship where this person feels valued, feels seen, feels known, feels understood? Like, I just want to discover, and a lot of people don't ever do this. They don't go on the dating process to go, I want to discover another person.
Yeah.
I want to participate in this other person's life, not just get friend zoned. I'm not talking about that, but I do want to like go on a journey of freely, learning how to come alive with another person and learning how to bring the best out of another person.
Well, and I was just thinking about one of my friends who so goals, we should always pick goals that can actually be successful. Otherwise, we're setting ourselves up to feel like failures. Mm-hmm. And so if the goal of dating is to feel complete, you're going to feel like a failure.
Yeah.
If the goal of dating is to feel desirable, you're going to feel like a failure. If the goal of dating is marriage, you're going to feel like a failure if it doesn't work out. But if the goal of dating is, like, I had one friend and she dated this guy and they learned about attachment theory because all these triggers came up for both of them. And this is one of the things I talk about learning yourself, like learning your triggers. So she and this guy read books and podcast about attachment theory, which is basically you learn to attach from your parents, and you have to learn about bonding. And so you have to actually learn how to bond to people healthily. And some people show up to bonding with anxiety, and some people show up to bonding with isolation. And so they actually went on the journey of discovery and learning. Now they broke up, but she walked away having learned more about how she functions, more about her personal triggers, more about like what she's going to need for the future. And so then she walks away being a more whole version of herself, a more known version.
Yeah, better. The best version of myself at this season of life came out.
Yeah,
because of how I operated through that. It wasn't about just trying to land somebody and get to an end goal of marriage, and it wasn't just about banging it out and having a bunch of sex. It was actually a life transformative journey. Yeah, I would say.
And dating can be that, and you can like, I'm going to learn how to love myself if I get broken up with. I'm going to learn how to not be controlling in this relationship. So much of dating gives us reflections of who we are and our triggers.
I think reflections is a good word. You get to walk into it when you start a journey of vulnerability and intimacy with somebody at some level. They start to become a mirror. Yeah. And it's really cool to have yourself mirrored back to yourself.
And by cool, you mean the worst.
The worst.
I remember,
but it's the biggest gift on the face of the planet.
I felt that way when I married you. Like I was like, oh my gosh, he sees all of my craziness. Yeah. Now I see all of my craziness because of him. Yeah. It's mirroring back, and I was like, I don't like this. But it is a really great, like, people. I was just talking to one of my friends, and having a partner in their life changed how they viewed their own family, because their partner's like, your family system's crazy. Well, it's a mirror, so you get to learn a lot about yourself and grow. Yeah, if you take the invitation of growth and see it not as the goal to become desirable, the goal to just get married. Now, I believe building towards marriage. I am in every relationship building skills that will facilitate a healthier marriage. Yeah. So that's why I want to learn how to not cheat while I'm dating, because I'm wanting to practice the life skills so that I actually have those muscles. Like, in the future.
I learned not just how to not cheat. It was, I learned how to process my heart and my emotions inside of dating in a healthy manner. Yeah. And learned how to get my needs met well, not just from my partner in the dating process. That really set me up for success, to be really comfortable and capable of walking through a marriage relationship and not repeating my parents' historic cycles.
And I would say this feels like a bigger issue nowadays, where dating is so, like, when I grew up, dating was very high stakes in our generation. Of Christian, I grew up Christian, and so there was so high stakes. You have to know it's the one. But in this generation, I would say dating's very nonchalant. You know, swipe left, swipe right. And I think the balance for that is tying it to long-term vision. Anytime you spend years sowing into a long-term vision, you reap a different reward.
Absolutely. That's good. I want to talk about fantasy.
Oh!
Are you my fantasy?
I am, duh. Obviously.
Yeah, well, you weren't, because life hit and reality sunk in, and you weren't everything I made you out to be in my head, which is what a lot of people...
Is that actually true? Or are you just segueing?
I'm segueing.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have fantasy about you.
Yeah, I know. It was so refreshing.
That was actually what was really healthy.
That was one of the things that made me like you.
Yeah. I mean,
you did not think I was perfect.
I thought you were a shit show. But I saw you and I loved you in that. And then what I didn't realize is I was equally a shit show. Yes. And what we then found out was that later on, Justin had a better assessment of himself after the mirror reflected back to him. Yep. He was an equal mess.
We were an equal mess.
And same for you.
Yeah,
you thought you were better than you were.
I did think I was better than I was.
But let's talk about the fantasy part, because here's what happens is a lot of people walk into relational connection fantasizing about the who. Who this person is.
I was so good at this as a kid. So like, here's a great example. Like when I was like a teenager and I'm like watching, I'm like, look at how he played with that kid. he's going to be such a great father.
Uh-huh.
Look at how he opened that door for that stranger. He's such a gentleman. Like, so you take one action and you create an entire story about who that person is.
Right.
Based on one action.
Like, look how provocative she's dressed. She's going to be a panther in the bedroom. Nope. Went on lock and key.
You're a dork.
What happened? I was so sure.
I was so sure. Yeah, so I grew up doing this all the time, I could within a week create a fantasy of who a guy was. Of what they were like and who they would be and what our lives together would be like.
Mm-hmm. I did that.
Wait, can I say one more thing?
No, please go ahead. Say two.
So not just a week. Like I always felt like I could create a fantasy for 3 months about somebody. I know that's like a weird thing, but I learned it. Around 3 months of actually dating, so we're around each other all the time and we're with each other, that is how long it would take for my fantasy bubble to pop.
It's interesting because I think there's potentially two opposing fantasy bubbles that could coexist and cause people problems.
Ooh, tell me.
I think there's a negative fantasy bubble that could actually exist for people.
Oh, that is so real.
Where they go, you in a short amount of time, I think that this happened potentially with me. And especially the way that you came to the table and my friends talked about me.
Yep.
There was this negative judgment fantasy bubble about like, he's aloof. He doesn't really care without doing
he's a player.
Without doing any investigations. And I was the furthest thing from being a player. I was just a really nice guy. It's true. I was actually naive about whether or not girls like me. I was just a really nice guy to women. I was trying to befriend them, actually, in my heart. And they were like, he's a player. He talks to all the girls. I'm like, I don't understand.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think
I'm probably more neuter than anything else right now.
I did create a lot of judgments about your character.
And so the investigation process gets really thrown out the window, and we kind of just determine who people are. And on that other extreme, which is more commonality, especially, and the more problematic, is the fantasy of you're the hero, the knight in shining armor, or you're this queen that's the best thing that ever hit me ever.
Or you're everything opposite of what I've dated before.
And
like
because I feel this energy inside of me and this chemistry that feels so amazing. You're wonderful. I'll have people come in the first like month of relationship, and they're telling me this is the best person ever, and this is how they are. And I just love the way they just nibble on hard-boiled eggs. That was from Arrested Development, if you remember that. George Michael talks about her nibbling. Nobody gets reference for that probably, but we just make up all these fantasies about how great they are.
Right.
And what happens is we overinvest ourselves really fast.
Oh yeah, we are like instantly bonding. We're instantly connected to them. We have taken the relationship from 0 to 60 in terms of emotional connection. In it to win it, like I've given you my full heart because in 3 months I've decided I've made up who you are.
And what you build is a giant bubble called denial. So
and
all
when
of this
it pops,
it
is rough.
You're like, I didn't know, I didn't see this coming. How did I not see this?
And then you're in so deep.
And your friends are like, oh my God, we tried to tell you for months on end, and you just blew us off.
Yes, you're in so deep that you can't. Now you're too bonded that you're like, well. I mean, this is just what he is, I guess. And you just keep going.
And a lot of people, they jump in super deep like that. They make up the fantasy, and then they even go to marriage. They go to whether it's, we come from a different culture than a lot of other people. Some people, that marriage is them just moving in together.
Right.
Like I moved in with them, and that was my highest level of commitment, is now I'm fully in. And then I realized this person's a monster. No, they're the same person they were always.
Yep.
Probably, unless they're putting on a really good show. And you just didn't want to look honestly at the signs that were there.
Absolutely. And I think humans do this a lot. And this is what I tell people. There should be this, and we're going to talk about this in the next thing, pacing, but part of fantasy gets you pulled in too fast.
Yep.
And so I had all of these ideas of what I was looking for. I had beliefs. And that's another. So we're going to talk about pacing and we're going to talk about standards in just a couple seconds. But the concept is, so I was like, I need somebody that spends money in a way that I can respect. So I watched my parents, and they had so many fights over money. And it's one of the most common reasons people get divorced. And so I was like, I need to respect somebody with money. So I'm watching. So I have that as a standard.
You need to respect their financial approach.
Their approach.
Yeah.
So that I can partner with them. And so I'm watching how you spend your money. I'm not making up a fantasy. So originally when I was like, I need somebody I trust with finances, I could like decide within the first month, well, look at these choices they do with money. That's great. I found that out to be a faulty way of information, especially because everybody's showing their best foot forward in the beginning. So they're painting they help paint the fantasy. They are pretending to be the best version of them.
So it becomes the need for investigation.
Yeah. So I am waiting, like I'm watching how you spend your money for months before I even make a decision of is this somebody I could be compatible with finances.
Yeah, we even went on a journey where you were like, help me know how you do finances. It seems like you do them well. It seems like you're able to save really well with what little you're making and stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that true? How are you approaching it? And in an investigative conversation, I don't even think you had the agenda to find out if I was compatible even that at the time, but you were actually getting to know me in that. And I'm actually going, here's how I do it. And you didn't find any like red alerts. You were like, oh, I want to actually implement that into the style of how I'm.
And I think most people don't ask questions, but I asked so many questions. It'd be like, so what do you spend what's your splurge that you spend your money on? Yeah, what's your
value where you put your money at?
Like, so you're really good at saving. How do you do with generosity? Like, what is your theory on finances? How do you budget? What has finances looked like your whole life? So I learned it's not just what are you doing now. It's what has the history been?
Because you could have one season where there's a train wreck on finances because you invested in a wrong investment, but you've spent years managing money well, and you're like, this guy doesn't even care about his finances, or this woman doesn't care about her finances, and she's actually been investing for a long time, and it was just one mistake.
Yeah, and how did you learn about finances? What are the mistakes you've made with finances?
What are the mistakes your parents made with finances?
Yeah.
Did you learn from that? Do you see that? What are you wanting to do different?
What did your parents do
what
well
did they do
with
well?
finances? Mm-hmm. What do you feel most proud of in your finances? All of the, like in major areas of life, I say that about sexuality.
I was just going to point that out.
You should be investigating sexuality. That's one of the most important areas. Like, do you have a history of cheating on people? Now, I don't count people out, but like, let's say you have a history on cheating people. Okay, well, what did you realize was why you did that? What conclusions did you come to about your, like, what you did? What have you done to stop that behavior? And if somebody has a history in something sexuality for a long time, I'm going to want to know, like, who did they work through it with? Did they see a counselor?
How did they work through it? What were the conclusions that they found? What were the ahas?
So I have people come to me and they'll be like, I just found out my boyfriend looks at porn. And I'm like, welcome to humanity. Or I just found out my girlfriend looks at porn. Yeah, a lot of people look at porn. So that's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Now we need to know what to do with it. So like, are they talking through, and we'll have a whole episode on porn and dating and marriage, but, are they talking with people through it? Are they figuring out what drives them to that? Are they learning about themselves? How are they working it out? Not just like, I'm trying really hard not to do that. That's not a thing. That doesn't work in sexuality.
Yeah. What's driving me in this? But whether it's sexuality or it's finances or whatever.
There's so many areas.
There's so many areas, but becoming really great investigators destroys false fantasies inside of your head. And then you get to really make a calculated decision. It was like, we talked about, I think before, the idea that one of the things that I could perceive in Abby's world is that there was chronic sickness that I was aware of. I didn't live in denial about it. I was very well aware that, like, I don't know how long this could last. This could potentially last the rest of her life. Now, not being inside of denial, do I want to pay the price? And it's not a value assessment on her if I said, I don't have the capacity to pay the price of walking that journey. But there was something inside of me, not having fantasy, that when we got into rough patches throughout the last 11 years of chronic sickness on and off that she's had to battle, I was like, yeah, I knew this was coming. I wasn't surprised. I saw it. and I said yes to it. And that means I'm even yes into the journey of finding solutions and all of that comes with it. And so what it gave me is so much more peace.
Yeah.
And so much more grace to walk that out. And so if you see an area that's like, this person is a complete mess when it comes to finances, but they're aware of it and I'm aware of it, and we're going to go on a journey together. And that awareness, I still love so much about them, and I'm not going to let this be the thing that counts them out. But I do know that it's going to be an area that we will have to be deliberate about working at. Awesome.
Right.
You have a win right off the bat there.
Absolutely.
Where there's not some bomb that's waiting to blow your leg off.
Absolutely.
So falling too fast. Why don't you jump into that?
So pacing. I call this one pacing. And this comes from, it's great on the heels of fantasy, because basically I can investigate, but if I'm not pacing, it's still fantasy. So I could have a really great, I could ask you really great questions about money in one night, and I could ask you all the questions I can think of about finances in one night, and then make a decision and then be like, okay, cool. You checked all my boxes. Great.
Yep.
But like pacing is, no, I'm going to watch, because you can say your one
There's
thing.
words and actions.
Yep. And I need to see consistency.
That's a great word.
Most people don't look for consistency. They just see like a behavior like, oh, he listened to me really well, so he must be a great listener. That'd be a great life partner.
I've actually had men come in an office like, she was such a great listener. This is so funny. It's on the other foot. She was such a great listener. And then we got married, and like, she's off in her own world all the time, checked out on her phone. She never listens, never asks me any questions. I don't understand what happened. I thought this was great.
Yes.
I was like, well, yeah, because you rushed it. And
yeah. So is this a behavior that they do consistently for months?
Can you see their behavior? This is part of the pacing process. When we pace it, we actually give ourselves time enough to even get invested and involved in other people's communities.
Yeah.
There are other cultures. So when I'm watching and I get involved in someone else's friend group and stuff, and I start seeing like, oh, they can't ask one question of any of their friends. They're just great with doing it with me.
Right. Okay.
Oh.
That's not actually who they are then.
That might not actually be who they are.
That's them putting their best foot forward, knowing the rules to dating. I know how to make you feel good and make you like me.
But they can't be consistent in their own community. And that's a surefire way that if you have pacing, you'll have the chance to get involved in outside someone's community and let the feedback of seeing that really be an honest sign and be a point of investigation. Like, hey, why is it that you ask me great questions, but it feels like your friends, none of them feel known, and I don't ever see you participate in trying to exchange with them.
Yeah. Or like, why is it that I see you checking other people out all the time when we're together? Or why, like, there has to be a process where I always say, like, I had things I was looking for, and this is kind of dipping into the next one, which is standards. I'm going to dip into the next one and then come back and forth.
Yeah.
So standards is so important. I have things that I believe are non-negotiables for me.
Yeah.
Now, this is complicated because every woman's like, I have a list. And honestly, Justin was not a lot of things on my list, but he was everything on my non-negotiable list.
I had a list. Men have lists. Men, if you don't have a list, you should have a list.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, but we can put some weird things on the list. So, like, one of the things that you weren't, like, I had must-love sports. Like, I wanted somebody to watch football and baseball and basketball with all the time.
I hope there wasn't must-have hair long-term.
Yeah, it wasn't on there. Should have put it on there. I'm just kidding. I did have must not be an only child, so Katie saved you. Your parents adopting her is the only reason that I could ever marry you. Thank you, Katie.
I had stuff on my list, non-negotiables. One was core value needs to be the desire to discover what love practically looks like, not just as a romantic emotion, but love as an expressed action towards humanity.
Yeah. I had, I wanted somebody who had a healthy sexuality. It didn't mean you had a perfect sexuality. There's a lot of things that we walked through, but you had a core value for wanting integrity and faithfulness, and you had a core value for seeing women as people, not objects.
Yeah.
And you were willing to work on your stuff. So it's not like there was an area where I wanted you to have core values in sexuality, but there was also an area of you're willing to get counseling. You're willing to tell people, like, you were so wide open, honest that I was like, okay, he's going to work. And he received feedback from people, and he would actually process. And when somebody talked to him about something, he would. So I think everyone should have the standards of is willing to do counseling, because there's not ever going to be a person you marry that doesn't have triggers, that you don't have triggers, that you don't need help working through stuff.
Yep.
And it's stupid. I mean, it's one of my favorite celebrity couples is Kristen and Dax Shepard. And they started seeing a counselor like 3 months into dating.
Yeah.
Because they're like, let's set this up. Let's not have to unlearn a bunch of crazy things.
And Dax is a complete mess of a human being, self-described mess in so many ways. Yeah. And I love that he's perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
And part of what it makes them beautiful, like you said, is there's a willingness of like, I want to discover how to find healing, how to find life, how to become abundantly, find abundance in my relationship even with Kristen. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love that idea. So that should be a core value. Counseling, like people who are not open to counseling, that means they have too much shame. That means you're not going to be able to work through things with them.
Yeah.
But then you can have some core values. Like I wanted somebody who cared about loving. I wanted somebody, like kids is a good core value. Like, are you on the same page with people?
Yeah.
And I had little things on it too. Like I have to be okay with how they drive, because I'm going to be in the car with them forever. And my parents fought over driving all the time. And can I respect, like I looked at a lot of the things in relationships around me that created a mess. And I was like, okay, what do I need to be able to go through that? But so my standards helped me pace.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I can't know all this information in a month.
And you can't know all your standards either until you know yourself.
Yep.
And that's such a huge part of it, is knowing yourself.
This is the next point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is that because people go like, I don't know what should be a good standard. What standard should I have? Well, I don't know. You need to know yourself so you can know what you want relationally. There's this idea of what we want based on cultural standards. So cultural fantasy ideas of what the perfect woman or man should be, and when we get a list of standards based on that. And as you're breaking the bubble of fantasy and tearing that to shreds and getting closer to being connected to yourself, you start going, all right, what does matter to me personally, actually, at the end of the day?
Yeah. And I think like standards are so individualized. When you know yourself, like one of my friends, she knows that she came from a place where the father was not a provider, and it caused their family a lot of pain. So she's like, I need somebody that is self-motivated in career. They don't have to make the most money. It's not that they have to be like the best, but they have to be somebody that is working towards a future, that feels powerful in the fact that they are creating a life where they are a provider somehow. Like she doesn't feel like he has to be the provider for them, but she wants a partner, not a man who's like not doing that at all.
And we've talked about some of your battle bodies, battle body battles.
No idea what you're saying.
We've talked about some of your body battles of things that you've disliked about yourself. But one of my core standards was she can't overly hate her body or herself, her looks and stuff. And now, again, there were pockets of that exist, and they exist in all of us at some level until we've put some focused intent on bringing healing into those places. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't overly, like, for an example, there was this one girl that was interested in me quite a while before we even got together, but she was like had to have makeup on.
She can't have you.
She had to have you. You interrupt me one more time and I will toss you out that window.
There's no window.
Well, there is that window. It goes into the hallway.
It wouldn't get me very far from you.
So that was pointless. But she had to have makeup on at all times. She had to have her hair perfect at all times. She had to have her clothes on perfect at all times. And I literally was like, I know that my standard, I need a woman that doesn't need that.
Yeah.
That will drive up my anxiety to be around someone that has to have that. I need at some level to be there, a comfortability with her. And I'm okay with fighting certain battles on behalf of someone, like going on a journey with certain things.
Yeah.
But to that extreme was a journey that I couldn't do. I didn't have the grace for it. I was like, absolutely not. If you want to like live in this perfection where you have to hide behind this, I'm not even going to try and fight and convince you that you're at some level beautiful. And you came to the table being like, I'm comfortable at a pretty large level of not having to be on physically.
And so much of this, again, you know, that's part of your childhood. Your mom had to look perfect all the time. And this is part of knowing ourselves, is knowing, what did I grow up with? What impacted me? What hurt me? What scared me? What do I need to feel safe? Is a huge part of what are the things that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and it's not about building a list of where we control the perfect outcome. This isn't what this is about. You know, it wasn't even about, my standard wasn't about creating the perfect outcome. It was just like, I know that if, you know, using that example as the loving your body, I know that not only will I not have grace for that, but I'll be intensely reactive to that all the time and in constant battles. And
I'll be triggering.
And I can't get, at this point in time, I can't get over that hurdle in my soul. So I'm not even going to take that journey with this person.
Right. Which again is that idea that you're not making a compatibility. She's bad because she needs to do this.
Right.
It's, I'm not compatible with that because of my triggers. And so standards is so important. It helps you keep a pace because you have things that you're like, I have these like circles in my heart. I see it like kind of like a target where I have all these gates. And so there's all these things that I'm looking for. So you have to be fun. I had to be around fun people.
Right. There's levels
of intimacy. So if you're not fun, then you don't get closer to my inner circle.
No, you would have never, you would not have been married to me if you were not fun.
Yeah.
At some level to
me.
And
so then, but each, I have a bunch of different gates of like, I need somebody who's trustworthy. I need somebody who doesn't lie. I need somebody who is kind. I need somebody. So I have all of these things. And so I'm looking for them. So I can't immediately throw you into giving you my whole life, giving you all my time, giving you all of my intimacy. I can't immediately get you into that deep place of connectedness. And that's healthy in dating. There should be a pace. You should not have more intimacy than you know the person.
Yep.
You should not have more connection than you actually know them.
Yep.
That's where it gets tricky because now you are overly tied to somebody. And then you're finding out crazy things about them, and it makes it very complicated to make good decisions.
It makes it complicated to leave the relationship, and it makes it very confusing. It becomes muddied waters. And, you know, we talked about this in sexuality in the past and stuff like that, but what starts even happening is it starts snowballing into physical intimacy that then all of a sudden I've expedited my physical intimacy, and now I can't hear anyone outside of me about anything about this person. Yeah. And I walk away convinced that women are terrible or men are terrible because when this didn't work out, I gave away so much of myself that I didn't have to.
Yep.
I didn't have to give myself away at that level. It was way too early to give myself away at that level anyways. And now I've vilified the other person, the opposite gender, for this experience that I've had, or even decided that I can't trust myself. The truth is, most people will walk away from these types of experiences, and if the intimacy is expedited, they will decide that they just can't trust themselves and they're a bad judge of character, and that's not the issue at all.
Totally.
We actually are
give
great.
Up discernment when you have too much intimacy too fast.
Yep, we are great discerners. And we usually really can trust ourselves. The problem is that we're not trusting ourselves and we're not pacing it. So early on, something inside of us is going, I don't know. I don't feel safe. I don't want to go here with this person. It's not a big deal. Just go. They're clearly great in all these areas. And there's an inner voice that was speaking up all along that had a sense of understanding and wisdom.
My fantasy and denial made it so I didn't even
I don't
hear
agree.
That voice.
But I'm saying the voice exists.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
You sound intense at me.
Oh, no. I just like feel strongly about the issue.
I was like, whoa.
What is happening? Are you at me? No, I'm saying that voice exists.
Yeah.
And it gets ran over because of fantasy and because of these issues that we're talking about.
Going too
and
fast.
then we assess that there's something at the core of me that's bad that I can't actually trust myself. Yeah. But my authentic voice
would have helped me if I
would have absolutely helped me if I wasn't allowing these unhealthy things to be a driving force. And so when I started learning how to listen to that, what it did for me is I started going, it doesn't even make sense because my head says this person's great, but something deep in my gut says, no, walk away. And I'm talking about just male friendships or things like that in my personal life or business opportunities.
Yeah.
And as I got connected to that part of myself, I was able to get myself out of a lot of long-term problems and avoid them because I learned how to trust actually myself.
Absolutely.
So our, to wrap this up.
Here are the 6. We have don't find your identity in dating. Mm-hmm. Don't have the wrong goal for dating. Don't live in fantasy. Number 3. Number 4, pacing. Don't fall too fast. Or I guess too slow. Some people, we forgot to cover that one, but some people just never bond. And it's like they've been dating for like 9 years.
And they waste their time.
Shared their
yeah, if you've been dating 9 years and this person isn't giving themselves to you and you're still like waiting for them to choose in.
Totally.
You got to look at some big problems you got.
Yeah. We didn't talk about slow pacing, but that's a real thing. Some people, will not commit, and then you should get out if they're not committal. Number 5, not knowing yourself. Learning how to know yourself is so important in dating, what your triggers are, what your needs are. And number 6, standards. Having standards, and that comes from knowing yourself, from knowing your history, from knowing your pain, from knowing what triggers you can and can't handle. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And if you haven't visited the dating website called Lowered Expectations, that's a little magic scene from a TV show. Was that from Mad TV?
I don't know.
I loved Lowered Expectations. It's ridiculous. Anyways, only our generation will get that.
Here's what I will say.
You got homework?
Well, I was just going to say, we're not trying to create a list of rules and shoulds where like you're running through, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Because people go crazy when they are just trying to figure out if they're doing everything right in dating. Right. And they think that if they do everything right, it will protect them from pain. That is not true. You can do everything right and you can have a relationship end in a really painful way. You can do everything right and you can still end up in pain. And so control by perfectionism doesn't work in dating or marriage. That isn't what this is for. What we're trying to do is give you guys just some things.
It's almost like a generalized map.
Yeah, like I see it like landmines. Like, hey, we've seen some landmines.
There's some clear landmines I could avoid with wisdom.
Avoid
with wisdom.
Uh-huh. And so we're trying to help you do that, but there's no need to shame yourself if you don't know how to do these yet, or if you failed at these in the past. Like I learned every time I dated was learning, and I felt like that was productive. Like, oh, I realized I lived in fantasy that whole time. It took me multiple guys to realize that I had fantasy. It took me multiple times to learn how to work on communication. It took me so long. And so just having compassion on yourself, this is the area you're going to be the most deeply triggered in any area of your world, because we have so many ideas that it's about our identity. It's just, and we're the most scared, and we have so much pain from however we saw it around us growing up. And so, and the experiences that we've had where we've been brokenhearted before. Yeah. So to understand, I'm going to be the most triggered. So it's going to be the hardest to implement wisdom, but I want to learn how to implement wisdom on the journey. And
I would say that understand, even as you're having grace for yourself in this process, dating is probably more scary than marriage.
Yeah.
Because it's just past friendship. Well, what I'm saying is it's just past friendship, and it's just before full commitment. Yeah. So you're in that tension place of like, I'm really starting to expose myself more than I even do with friends.
Yeah.
But I also know that this person
could leave.
Yeah. If they decide that they don't want to do this, I'm not just getting friend zoned. I'm getting thrown out. Like,
Totally.
this is done. We're going to go separate directions.
It's so vulnerable.
To say. So it does feel really scary, the dating process. And so I'm just kind of validating that for people and not being like, dating's not a big deal. It's just fine. No, it can be really scary and it's okay, but it's good and awesome. So any final homework? Because we got to wrap this up.
If you are single, I think it'd be great to think through what are the things that you really want for your marriage. What are the things that you really think would be valuable? And I even would like ask married couples who had good marriages what helped them be married. Like,
and good isn't perfect.
That.
Like, but you guys are choosing yourself and you choosing each other, and you've still chosen each other through all kinds of crazy things over 11, 15 years. Like, what is the thing?
Yeah. So I'm saying find out some things that make marriage good so that you can have some goals. Like, okay, in communication, that is something that every married person says is important. Okay. How can I work on communication through the dating process?
Yeah.
Oh, money is something that everybody needs to figure out. How can I work through finances in my own world and triggers around it? And what do I need in a partner? And how can we do that? So begin to look through what can I do and what goals would be healthy for me to have in dating and knowing yourself. So like, oh, I'm the person that jumps in too fast. Okay, how do I slow myself down? Oh, I'm the person that never gives my heart away. How do I become more vulnerable? How do I open up? Like finding yourself on the spectrum. Where am I? Do I do fantasy or do I overly create the skepticism? So if I'm overly skeptical, how do I give them a chance and not make judgments against them? If I fantasize that they're the best, how do I take more time to get to know them? Find yourself. Think through these areas. Where are you and what is it that could help you be more balanced?
That's great. And so if you've gotten anything out of this episode today, we just ask that you go rate, review, subscribe, and share with the world around you so that other people can get access to it. And if you haven't jumped on already yet, you can go to Justin and Abi, abi.com/shop. And you can check out the Father series. We've talked about that for a couple weeks. It's out. You can order it and you can get it on your doorstep in the next few days or so.
Yeah, we actually talk about how fathers affect dating, how they affect relationships, intimacy, how they affect how you work with your partner, how you receive love from your partner. So it's actually really relevant. It's an e-course and it's super fun and playful and easy and great questions, and we'll dig in deep.
And if you want to know more about what we're doing, you can jump onto our websites and just sign up for an email list if you want.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.